This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.
Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foulball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope that you're doing well, because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. This is the 53rd episode of the MFer Podcast, which I will remind you is on Twitter, is on Rumble, and also available wherever you get podcasts. So head on out to those outlets, like, subscribe, give me a 5-star review, or just hang out and have a little bit of fun. Anything you do is appreciated. Thank you very much for being here. I'm very, very happy to introduce my guest this week. None other than the great, the majestic, the fantabulous 32 Flavors of Nickweiser. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Matt.
So glad you're here, man.
Happy to be here. It has been way too long since you and I have been on the same panel. Like whether it's just us or a swarm of dudes. It has been way too long. Obviously, you and I ran into each other briefly at Dell's last June. That was already a year and a half ago. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. It's already been that long.
I know.
Boy.
I know. I'm a whole nother man since then I broke up with my girlfriend.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's too bad.
Sorry to hear.
Yeah, we're on good terms though. It's not bad. It was like hard for a while, but amiable overall, and she's cool. We still talk, so it's chill. She's a good person, but just not right. You know what I mean? You know how those things go.
Sometimes it do be like that.
Sometimes it do be like that. Yes, sir. Well, what you been up to, man? How you been?
Oh man, busy life at home. Obviously, like kids have getting to a point where one hit double digits, the other is going to be there next year. Still with my current girlfriend. We hit awesome. 5 years a few weeks ago, which is awesome. We went to go see Sebastian Maniscalco at the United Center. It's a really good show. It was a really good show. It flew by. I didn't even realize. I was just like, it just like kind of happened like that. I was just like, oh, that's right. Awesome. That's awesome. So that is cool. Obviously, the channel's still going. I haven't been as active in the last few months, but I am going to start getting that back. Now, I haven't stopped with the streaming side of things. That's maintained. But as far as videos, so I just did one today. I'm going to have another one out Wednesday. I'm just going to get right back in the swing of things with the videos. But I've got a member stream coming up Wednesday as well. So things are still moving. Things are coming along good, nice and steady. I'm having fun, which is the most important part of this. Is like, no matter what I do with the channel, I got to make sure that I am like invested into this. That I want to be there. People are gonna get their time, and for some people, their money. I want to make sure people, are gonna get their time and money's worth. That's very important to me.
Bro, I totally understand what you're saying, especially like the having fun with it. Like I, started doing this in pandemic, you know what I mean? Had a lot more free time. once I moved to Austin, got to get a full-time job, and doing it with all the streaming and the videos and like chasing the algorithm and putting out stuff, it like really started to burn me out to the point where it wasn't fun. Like it was just, there were times where it was fun. Don't get me wrong. Like me and Vidge did a show for like a while. We did like
I remember the Culture
Yeah.
Crime Fighters. What?
Yeah,
that
dude.
feels like an era ago.
I know. Dude, it's wild, man. It's wild. And it's like, I mean, we first hung out. You were there the first Vegas trip, right?
The
that
one
was
that
still during
got
the
canceled.
pandemic?
You and I
Yeah.
hung out because it was me, you, Jake D, and Manowar 665. I remember
That's right.
that. And Eric K. And Eric K. We were
yeah.
the 5 that came out, even though the whole meetup was canceled. We were the 5 that came out anyways.
Mhm.
I remember we got chicken and waffles. I remember I
Yeah.
did the zip line in Vegas.
That's right, dude.
Like we just made the best of it with the 5 of us, and it really made us all friends. So that worked out like in its own weird way.
It was awesome,
that was
dude.
cool as it was.
It was so cool. And then we, reconvened there. I guess it was the next year was like when we had like, it was like the big event when it was on, and we hung out, got to meet like George and like, that beautiful casino, the Wynn and stuff like that, man. It's like, we've had some good times, brother.
Yes, we have. Oh, dude, I like kind of remember when we got in. Was it a Uber or a taxi after we left the Vegas meetup?
Yeah.
Like,
Was it you and Ginger Ninja who just fucking shit face?
I'm like, how did I get back to my room?
We got thrown out of the Paris, remember? I don't even know what we did. I guess they're just like, get these animals out of here. Dude, it was so much fun. And this year's the San Antonio meetup was great, dude. There was so many people, that I ran into who were like it was so supportive because I feel like I haven't been around, which I guess I haven't. And it was just nice that everyone was just like, hey, man, like, good to see you. Everybody, like, embraced and, said hi. It was like no time had passed. It was almost more people were just, like, happy to see that I was back around. It felt really good.
That's good. And I'm glad to see you all right. I watched your new video earlier. I loved it.
Thanks.
Had a few good chuckles at it.
Thank you, sir.
Like, oh, man, I love the direction you're going. But, of course, to bring it back, yeah, it's this crew obviously it's one of those circles. Clearly, when you're away, life goes on, but when you come right back in the fold, it's almost like nothing ever happened. Like you didn't skip a beat, which is cool to see. And now we can verify that that's how this inner circle works, and it's wonderful to see. Yeah, because there are times I wonder about like certain faces, whether they had a channel or people who are just in our chats. Oh, where'd so-and-so go? Hopefully they pop back up. That doesn't mean they need to give me super chat. I just want to know that they're doing it live and they're okay. And clearly, and I'm hope that next year, sometime next year, maybe we'll spy each other again in the flesh.
We'll go,
see.
Dude.
I can only hope, man. I can only hope.
No, dude. Well, it's funny you were saying about, like what I was talking about with like kind of getting burnt on it and just it wasn't as much fun. And I just kind of felt like almost like a chore at times. That sentiment was actually reflected by a bunch of people at the meetup. It's surprisingly Jay, Drunk 3PO, said the same thing. He's like, yeah, man, it's a lot. And it's a grind. And sometimes, it just sort of does stack up on you. And I think it's better. It's better to take that time away, even if that means you lose traction, even if that means when you come back, you're a little behind the ball and you got to kind of rebuild back up to where you were. I still think overall for your mental health, it's like if you're not having fun, it's like very few of us get to do this for like a living. So if you're going to do it, you better love it,
Oh, yeah. No, it is important to love it. And I think for me personally, like, I'm someone who still watches a lot of, I guess you could say, culture war based videos. Like, let's just put it this way. I guess I'll go give away the convenient example. Nerdrotic. I watch like 95% of his videos. But as far as me talking about it, I didn't want to just, I feel like that was what burned me out. When if I wasn't talking about it on my channel, I was going to every single other channel to talk about it. For me, it was a balancing act. And that way, when I go to, let's just say, Conks Division's channel, when I go to his channel to talk about those things, I'm a bit more ready, more enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
Rather than, okay, I talked about my channel, now I gotta go this one, and this one, and this one, this one, this one. And I'll be fair here. Some people, they're built that way and they can do it, and I respect that. But for me, I need to have a level playing field. So that's why, once again, shows like Toxic 2, they happen. That's the way it does, because it's fun. And I don't inevitably dread going on here. It's like, yeah, making money is great. I'm a capitalist. I get it, but
Let's go.
I gotta enjoy being here. And also, once again, people will get drained. Most do. We'll say
Yeah.
most will get drained when that's all you talk about.
It so happened to me. I remember the distinct moment. I remember it was before the Lord of the Rings show came out, The Rings of Power. I was gearing up, and I was ready. I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna really get on this. I'm gonna make a bunch of videos. I'm all pumped. And I watched the first episode, and it was horrible, like beyond horrible. Not even like woke bad, like Captain Marvel bad. Like it was inept. It was obnoxious. It was so unwatchable on every level that I was like, what am I doing? I don't need this. I'm not happy about this. Like, there's certain people, I always say, it's like, if Critical Drinker doesn't talk about it, it's weird. Or if Gary doesn't talk about it, it's weird. I agree. That's their niche. I mean, I
love them for those videos, too. I love them for those. I love them.
Totally. But for me, it's like, I guess it's kind of what people know me for, but it's more like, I'm not going to enjoy that. It's just going to get me upset. And there's a saying they say, like in recovery, where it's like righteous anger is best left to those who can handle it. And I just realized I couldn't handle it, I was just going to get upset. It made me an unhappy person. I felt like every time I was watching something, I was like on patrol, like looking for where's the woke, what'd they do, how, where's the message? And I'm just like, God, I'm like angry about this stuff all the time. I'm an unhappy guy. Like, I'm like you. I still consume a lot of the culture war content, definitely not as much as I used to, but definitely check in. I'm always, I pop in, I see, I like the Gary or Mauler and their stream, the open bar, and Gary shows up there a lot, and it's a great dynamic, and they talk about these terrible shows, and I consume it, and I enjoy it, but it's the same thing. If that's what I'm talking about all the time, I am an unhappier person, and I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be mad, It's like, they do such a good job of just water off a duck's back. They're happy. They're doing great. I just wasn't, and I had to walk away from it, And Man of War always bust my balls. He would call me and Vige the culture fence sitters.
The culture fence. That's a great name.
It was so funny because it was like, you're not wrong or whatever, but I just I can't be like, this sucks. Like, it was Vidge was the first person who said it to me. He's just like, is this what we're gonna do? They're gonna make Superman gay, and we're gonna get mad about it. And I was like, yeah, that's what we do. And then I was like, oh yeah, huh. Are we going to do that forever? I don't think I can do that forever. So it's like, I just had to kind of evolve and change, And it's like you lose people because people are here for a particular thing. But,
there are some people that's all they want to consume. I mean, you can't knock them for it.
I don't blame them.
That's just that's what they're into, and that's why they got into YouTube, because it became, I guess you could say, their therapy, their catharsis, whatever you want to call it. That's just that's their thing. And whether that's someone who runs the channel or someone who subscribes to the channels and listens, we all have our reasons why we're here. And some channels do evolve. Some people stick with it and do well at it. And then you have channels like Ripa's channel, or even I'd even make the argument Draker's channel has, to a point, evolved too. I mean, he has Rogue Elements movie that premiered earlier today. That was 40 minutes long. He's been on a series of chapter books, one of them which I read, which I really enjoyed, Razor Fist as well. He's been playing with comics and chapter books. So there has been some evolutionary growth on some sides of that, and hopefully we'll see a little bit of both is what I'm hoping for. And we don't need to abandon it, the culture of war completely. It's just balancing out, and the people who have the culture war arguments at their strengths, let them play that field. I think that's why Gary is such a perfect fit to be on, let's just say, Pierce Morgan. When I saw him with Drinker on Pierce Morgan, that was awesome, because once again, he's built for that argument. He's built for it, and I was hooked on watching him, because showing you that he can have that engagement with someone who's not like him, and he can hold his own in that conversation.
And he can argue with people who vehemently disagree with them and kind of make them look foolish without getting upset about it. Like, when I listen to stuff like that, I'm mad. I'm yelling at the phone. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm like this. I'm just like, okay, I wouldn't be my slot. I wouldn't be able to just, because it's such bull-faced lies. And they do it with the politics and stuff, and it just gets me mad. And I think that's kind of like why I try to put it like into videos, like the sketches and stuff like that, instead of just like saying exactly what I think and feel, like trying to put it through a sieve, because then it's a creative outlet and it forces me like into like a different headspace and kind of just allows me to deal with it without like it upsetting me to a way where I'm unpleasant to be around, you know? And here he is, Man of War. Stay strong, Matt. That fence ain't gonna ride itself.
He was my first ever channel member.
Really?
Yeah, Man of War 65 is my first ever channel member. I'm
32
I'm
months.
happy to say that. And appropriately for 32 months, but on your channel. That's good.
God bless him, man. It's like, it's like him, Jake, they, that was the thing too. I remember when I first kind of got involved with all this stuff, when I first was like listening to Gary and going on like member streams and stuff, it was how welcoming everybody was. I didn't really expect that. I kind of expected a little bit more like, kind of, what's the word? Like gatekeeping a little bit. But no, man, everyone was like real cool and real welcoming and very nice. And I've always been appreciative to everyone I've met like through this community and, or fellowship or whatever. But like all those guys, like every time I see the dudes at the meetup, like, they're huge now and they're still just as cool, just as normal. I stayed at Gary's place. You know what I mean? Like
that's awesome.
That's
and fantastic.
Yeah.
I love
hearing
hearing
nice.
that.
Yeah. They're just good people.
It is a good group of people. And you and I have been around this space now long enough. I guess you could say we've been around long at that point where you could say we're past the honeymoon phase. We don't have the rosy lenses on, so we can now see it a bit more for what it is. And I still feel enthusiastic. I still get excited when I go to meetups, because I feel like if I were if it were a novelty, it would definitely have worn off.
Yeah.
But when like last year, I did the Milwaukee and the Dallas meetups last year. This year, I was only able to do Dallas, but I was equally excited for all three. I was excited when I hit 2K earlier this year. I was excited when I got Razor Fist on my channel. Like, I'm still like
sick,
excited when I accomplish these things. I'm still like looking for new things to accomplish. And when I hit 150 with Toxic Tuesday, happened this year. So it's still, once again, it's still exciting for me. Like, it's a good idea that, okay, I'm clearly in this for the long haul. There will be probably ups and downs in terms of how active I'll be, if my personal life gets in the way. But I will definitely be having a presence here overall. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in this for the stability, and I ain't going away anytime soon. So a lot of you will either accept me or you're going to survive me. Take your pick.
I always noticed like your growth was so organic, because like I would watch, I think it was I don't even know if you had 1,000 subscribers at the time, but you would have like healthily 50 people watching Toxic Tuesday. It's like, okay, so the people who are there are really there. Like your fans, like the people that are, your subscribers, like they're really in it. And that is such a great fan base to have, it's like such a strong core to build on. And I mean, I always like admired what you did with the Toxic Tuesday. I think you were the first like stream I can think of in that time where it was like, we're just going to enjoy shit. We're not going to, we can't always talk shit. We have to like, why we care about this stuff, why it mattered to us so much was because we liked the things. Before they got all fucked up, we really appreciated it. So saying those, like showing that kind of passion, I think is like great, and that's cathartic for everybody. It's like a little bit of you relax a little, you're sort of at ease instead of looking down the barrel at the next pile of shit that Disney pumps out or whatever. It's better. It's like, because it's getting better. Like I watched the Penguin show, I really enjoyed it. There's some good shows on like Apple that I watch. Like I really like that Adam Scott show. That's like kind of it's really weird. Severance. Okay, that's a really good show. And Slow Horses is another good show on Apple. So there are some shows that are coming out that I'm like, okay, I actually have content I'm enjoying. There's things I like. That's good. But still, the landscape's a little brutal.
Oh yeah, it's a minefield. It's definitely a minefield filled with shite still. But I am noticing a slow turn, which I like to see. Yeah. And I'm like, no, there are more good shows pop up. I know a lot of people are raving about that Billy Bob Thornton show. Obviously,
Badlands or Badlands, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Like that. We'll just say Billy Bob Thornton show for conversation's sake. So people are really liking that. Obviously, Cobra Kai stayed consistent through the site, which is great to see.
That's huge.
A lot of people really like the Penguin as well.
Yeah.
It seems Arcane season 2 did pretty well as well.
Yeah.
So there is more coming out that people are liking and having conversation about. Even streams that really go on about culture war are having these conversations on shows that they're enjoying. And I think it's not just great for the channel just to have different sides of the conversation, show positive stuff, but also I feel like it kind of shows you, hey, look, these guys don't hate things just to hate things. And I think as someone who doesn't always consume culture war content, it does drive me crazy. Me personally, when I see people say, oh, these guys just hate things just to hate things, because I know that is objectively and verifiably false. They're being truthful and honest from their heart. You don't have to like what they're saying, but at least know that they're being authentic and recognize it and respect.
And they have a right to be mad. That's the thing too. It's like I always defended that. It's like,
and I still will.
Yeah, it's like I personally have to move on at times, but that doesn't change what they did to Star Wars. It doesn't stop that. It doesn't stop the fact that the Lord of the Rings show is a parody of itself. You know what I mean? These things that like you grow up loving in a way that you can't really even explain, and then when you just see it just butchered, it's such a shot at you. It feels like so personal because it's like, God, I care about this thing so much, and you're just desiccating it, and it drives me wild. So like when people are upset about those things, I always defended that righteous rage because I think it's correct. It's your heart is telling you something that really you care about, you've been invested in. And I still have Star Wars merch in my room right now. There's like a Millennium Falcon right here. There's like a Starry Night, but it's an AT-AT, and it's it's like I still care about this stuff. So it's like I understand why people get upset. I get upset. So it's like I empathize wholly, and I think they're correct. They're correct, but it is important to not let it consume you because it can.
Too much, and too much of one thing. Yeah, it could definitely make it crazy. It's saying, I've seen that happen, man. Whether it's cultural content or even just posting on Twix or TikTok or whatever, you get too much of anything, or even just people with TDS, you consume too much of one negative thing, it will make you crazy. Yeah, it will make you crazy. You don't have to take my word for it. Just go look at all the results. You don't have to look hard to find it. It might even find you.
I mean, if you look, I was just browsing Reddit earlier because like I go there sometimes for topics or articles, stuff like that to talk about on the streams. And I mean, if you go there now, I mean, it's been like this since the election. It's just a meltdown about how much they hate Trump. That's that seems all Reddit is right now. It's just dedicated to this misery that they're, and it's like, if I was one of those people, like I would want to stay away. Because it would make me unhappy. Like I wouldn't want to just live in that misery all the time. It seems, I don't know. It's something you have to do.
You say you don't want to live in misery, but I think you also forget at the same time, Matt, misery loves company.
That's a great point, dude. That's honestly a great point. I think that's why those posts are so popular. Why it's like, you thinking Trump's dumb, 100,000 upvotes. You know what I mean? You're like, all right, guys. Seems like you're taking this real well. Let me see here. I had some things I wanted to talk to you about.
Sure.
So I don't know if you saw this, but they dropped the January 6th insurrection charges on Trump. Did you see that?
I saw. I'm not surprised. Once again, just more. It was always a political thing, not a actual case of legitimacy.
Yep.
This is something I will swear up and down on, even though we'll never be able to, quote unquote, prove it. But if we could ever prove an alternate universe to be a thing, in that alternate universe where, let's just say Trump lost the 2020 election and he chose not to run again in 2024, I guarantee you, I would bet my life on it, none of these charges, whether it's from J6, what's going on in Georgia, what's going on in New York, none of these would have ever happened had he chose not to run for president. This was all done as a way to try to get him to not run for president, or if he were to try to run, try to make him look bad. Look at this guy who's running for president. He's got all these charges. it was all done for just to try to make him look bad or try to get him out, one or the other. But
100%.
I guarantee you, this was all political based.
I mean, I was talking to my mom about it today, and she's like a liberal. Both my parents are. They voted they both voted for Kamala, and I'm like, come on, guys, you don't actually like Kamala, you know that. And even they'll kind of admit it. But I was talking to her like, why they keep talking about the insurrection, why that is such a big story, is because there's an amendment that says you can't be president if you've led an insurrection. So they're trying to make it sound like they want to push that and push that and push that and try to get it into law so that they don't have to deal with this guy. And the thing is, like, the thing you got to ask yourself is, like, why are all these people so invested in not having him as president? It's not because he's a warmonger. It's not because he's a fascist. It's probably because he's the opposite, and he's a threat to everything that they've built, the entire establishment. It's like they didn't do this with Bush.
No,
he started all these wars
with Bush. No,
people talk shit, but they weren't like using the legal system to try to get him out. And if there was a guy who was going to be like a warmonger, I mean, is there a better example? And it's just like they didn't do it then. It's like, so what do you really think's going on here?
Yeah. No, it's clear that they were going after the guy who broke the status quo. And that's a thing. This is something even though I didn't really get involved with politics up until like 2019, 2020, the one thing I've learned now that I've known about this stuff a lot better in the last 5 or 6 years is that until Trump came around, the ultimate goal of politics was that nothing is actually supposed to change. You'll get a false few small nods and bets here and there, but overall, you maybe at best give off the illusion of change, make it look like things have changed. But if you look past the smoke and mirrors, it's exactly that, smoke and mirrors. Nothing actually changed. They are there for the status quo, and Trump actually did change things. I mean, just look at every Republican candidate in the last 30, 40, 50 years, whether it's the ones that actually won the presidency or the ones who just were in the running but didn't win. They all, I mean, look, and I don't want to make this about abortion, but just for a conversation to prove a point. A lot of them would run on abortion, and whether they won the presidency or not, none of them did anything to follow through on it.
Right.
Trump was
both
the
sides,
only,
by the way.
Yeah, and both. Well, yeah. Trump was the only one, and when he post presidency, because he got the game started for it, and it happened post his time, he got that set for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. That was an actual major game changer change, and I think that should be proof that he actually is the guy who actually did get things changed. And on top of it, he was the first guy where no new wars were started. Obviously, there was hopeful plans second term to get some of these guys out of the countries that were already ongoing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because had they not stolen 2020, he would be out the door right now in a few weeks.
I saw that.
He would be out the door in a few weeks. They made the problem worse for themselves because now they get him again. Now they got to deal with RFK. They got to deal with Tulsi Gabbard.
They didn't have any of those people. Like they didn't have this like super squad of dudes that and chicks who are like gung ho. It's like the one that they called a Russian asset is now in head of all the, in charge of all the goddamn intelligence agencies. I didn't know there were that many too. It's kind of a lot.
No, it's dude. You learn like how deep, like how many alphabet agencies there are. Yeah. Like how many of you probably do the exact same thing, but you just have a different set of letters?
Yeah, exactly, dude. I know, and like how much redundancy, and they don't even. I understand, like they don't even communicate. Like they like sometimes they're at this. There was it was like one I forgot. I was listening. It was about like I don't know if it was a terrorist group or like a drug, dealing gang or whatever. And it was like half the people in this gang were like FBI, and like the other half were like DEA, and they didn't fucking know. You know what I mean? They're spending all this resources like to bring down this gang that's completely made up of federal agents. None of them are like gang members. It's just like, what are you people doing? What's happening?
Yeah, dude, you really realize how massive government got. It's insane. Like I always like thought government was already massive. Like I thought the idea even before I got it, like invested into politics. I always thought government was too big, but I didn't realize how much I meant that without actually knowing it.
It's crazy, dude. It's
Like,
crazy too, and it's like you look at.
mackerel.
So I like, especially during a lot of the height of the culture war and stuff. Like a lot of this stuff, I didn't understand it, And it's so funny that like Star Wars was my gateway through to understanding this whole gigantic
It really was.
lattice
It
of
really
bullshit.
is.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people too. And so I started reading like James Lindsay's book. You know James Lindsay, right?
Oh yeah.
So I
He
was
watches
reading his.
Midnight Edge videos.
He does.
He does.
That's
James
awesome.
Lindsay is a Midnight Edge fan.
That
Yep,
rules. I love
he
that.
does.
So I was reading his book, Cynical Theories, which is basically explaining critical theories and like why it's so ubiquitous, why it's so widespread, why woke is even a thing. And it all obviously goes back to the colleges. But what I didn't understand was how much the Clinton administration incentivized these colleges to balloon in size because of all this federal funding. And so they have all this federal funding, and obviously they want more money. They want more people to enroll. And so that's when they started with all this bullshit activist scholarship. Like it was in the 80s, but it was when the 90s when it ballooned because now they have so much more funding. They have so much more money to make this stuff. And that was one of the catalysts that helped spread all of this nonsense. And it's government bloat. It's government spending. Basically, in the end, the investment is our country's worse off. We're more divided. People are angry. People, like hate this country that are in positions of influence and power, and it's ultimately not good in the long run. And it's really fascinating. I mean, it's like the government's just like eating itself by its own size.
Yeah, it's a house of cards. It is
Yeah.
a house of cards, and man, it has ballooned up. It is a Titanic that somehow has not sunken.
I know.
It
It's
has
crazy.
and I do actually believe. No, I do believe we're gonna get some organizations. I'm not gonna try to be that guy who's gonna guess how much of it's gonna go. But do I believe at the very minimum some of it's going to go? Yes, I do believe some of it's going to. I actually do believe, especially with the type of people who have shown us that they can deliver change.
Yeah.
And we have seen it now. Could be one thing if we're running on this idea and Trump, let's just say Trump was never present. And that was honestly why I never voted before. Is because
Really?
I had the remembrance. I remember the 96 election. I remember the 2000. I remember 2004. I remember all these guys on both sides always make these hopes and dream promises of what they were going to do, and then they get in office and nothing really happens. And that's kind of like why I even stabbed it in 2016, because I even said, "Oh, Trump is just going to be another guy who's going to talk about what he's going to do, and none of it's going to happen." And clearly, I was wrong. I mean, yeah, I know there's errors along the way, but what stood out to me was what he actually did accomplish.
Yeah.
And that was like, holy crap. And I always said, if someone actually does something, I will vote for whoever it is, should they run up for re-election. And not only did he run up for the re-election, obviously, we all know happened in 2020. So I did vote for him in 2020, and I voted for him in 2024, even though I never voted before that. So you're talking my first 33 years of my life, I never voted, and I didn't even register until 2020.
Wow. That's
Did not
interesting,
register
though.
at all. I was so against it because I would even hear the convenient arguments of the people they would try to use to persuade people into voting of, how does my one vote count? I'm like, okay, quit with the convenient arguments. Why don't you answer, prove me that my vote counts? And that's
Sure.
another reason why I didn't vote, is because you're answering this convenient question, but you're not answering the hard question. Prove that my vote counts. Nowadays, there are ways of proving that, which
Yeah.
definitely makes it, definitely a lot more, okay,
Well, it's
this
tough
may
because
give me some legitimacy.
it's kind of like the same thing as like littering, right? Like if I litter, it doesn't make much of a difference. But if everybody litters, then it does make a difference. So it's
Yes.
almost like that thing where it's like you just have to like believe that being part of the collective like has some impact. And it's like if we all believe our vote doesn't count, then we are all correct. It's like, but it's like it's hard to say. It's like I can't see that like Austin's prettier because I don't litter, but
Yeah.
I can see Austin's prettier when everyone doesn't litter. So it's kind of like it's like one of those like little things. It's like, yeah, it might be insignificant, but you are doing your part and it matters. And if we all think that kind of cynical way, then yeah, it doesn't change a damn thing. It's pretty fascinating too. Like I don't know who tweeted it, but it was someone saying like things are so different now with this election. Like they're talking about all these cabinet picks like it's like a NFL draft. And I was like, that is such a great point. That's exactly what it feels like. I never thought about who the fuck the attorney general was or like defense secretary. I didn't know. I'm not even still sure what a lot of these things do, but the fact that everyone's talking about it is such a different tenor. It's such a different vibe. It's like we really are like paying attention to what he's doing. And it's like, I believe he's going to do a good job, but it's also the kind of thing where you do need to keep an eye on it just in case, because it's like, we all thought that. I thought that about Obama. I voted for Obama in, what was that, 08? Was that when he for
08,
08
and 2012.
Yeah.
Those were the years he ran.
Was sure it was the right call in 2008, because I was like, the Bush administration was such a disaster. These foreign wars are so bad. This guy's coming out of nowhere. He's going to change this shit, and change nothing. But I wasn't keeping an eye on it. I was like, all right, he's in office. Hopefully he does the right thing, and that was that. Like, I didn't think about the repercussions of someone like Hillary Clinton, and it didn't we didn't talk about things like that the way we do now. And it's like it's in everybody's life. It's like, this is the downside to making everyone's lives political, is that, okay, now we're actually paying attention, and it's like, you're not going to be able to fool us any longer. It's like, whoops-a-daisy.
You're not going to only fool us any longer, A. B, those who are trying to force you to get involved, even though when you want no initial involvement, well, now am I going to get involved? I'm going to go against what you want out of me out of spite, because you try to force me in. I'm going to make it so you wish that I never got involved as well. And that's how it was for me too. Like, I lived in Chicago when the 2016 election happened. I was living in the city those first few years during that whole spiel. And it was absolutely psychotic. It really was, the insane overreaction. Even though I wasn't into Donald Trump at all at that time.
No, me neither.
I just thought, like, this is ridiculous how everyone's acting. Even some of my buddies in the metal scene in Chicago, like, some of them didn't vote, some of them did vote for Hillary. But those guys, we all agreed this is clearly out of line how people are acting. We all mutually agreed on that.
I mean,
and
I was in LA.
Hysterical.
Dude, I was in LA, and I was working at this acting studio, so I would work there in exchange for like credits where I could take class for free and stuff like that. So it was just it was just something to do, and it was office work. It was really easy. It wasn't much. And then I had to go in one day, and it was the day the Pussy Hat March was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I waited for literally, I think it was like 40 minutes to even get on a subway to make it. It was so crazy, the reaction. Like, you could just see everyone, their lives changed, their entire personality changed. I had an acting coach start smoking again, and I was like, what are you doing? It's like, why are you doing that? Like, it's like, don't you feel like this is kind of making him win? He's like, oh, well, I donated a bunch of money to Planned Parenthood. I was like, okay, but you're now hurting yourself because you're so upset about this Trump guy. I mean, and then it was like every class, every interaction, everything was so tense and political, and it was like a witch hunt. They're trying to find out anyone who believed and supported him. I didn't even believe he was a real candidate. I thought it was like the producers, where they were just trying to build up the worst candidate they could, and then they just slam dunk him in the election.
I thought about that too, man. I thought long and hard, and that's what I thought. I thought it was just supposed to be a throwaway candidate to help Hillary win. I thought that's ultimately, because I didn't watch the 2016 debates. I didn't watch them. Yeah. I didn't care about them.
Clips were funny.
Well, I've watched them now in retrospect. They're hilarious. They've aged beautifully. But at the time, I didn't care. That's how much I stayed away from politics. I didn't care about the clips. I didn't care what Trump said. I didn't care what Hillary said. I didn't care at all. I didn't want anything to do with it. I just didn't. I would, even when I would post, when I used to have Facebook and stuff like that way back when, I would always try to look at everything from both sides, which I still try to do most of the time to this day. But at the time, I would try to see both sides of everything and just look at everything from a very centered lens. And I started noticing when people got mad that I would see things from that lens. And that was when I started to realize a lot of people who live in Chicago, and this is not all of them, but I'm just going to say a lot. A lot of people in Chicago live in a bubble. And you could probably, to be fair, say there's a little bit of that anywhere you turn, whether it's social media or even the suburbs. But I can say, as someone who's lived at least a decade in a city and at least a decade in the burbs, I can say that the bubble is so much worse in Chicago. It's so much worse.
Yeah.
It's almost like another form of political leaning, ideology, social concepts. It's almost like it doesn't even exist. It's almost like if an alien comes to Chicago type of thing.
It's
And
interesting.
the minute people see that, they react that much harshly because they're so used to their point of view being affirmed rather than having it being challenged or confronted. So when it comes to that rare moment where they finally come across someone, they freak out and lash out that much harder because they expect confirmation.
Yeah,
Not
100%. Because
questions.
that's all they get.
That's
Like,
all they get.
I remember very distinctly there was a girl in that same acting studio, because they were all obsessed with Trump. They played some video, and I forgot. Like, they tried to make it sound that he was saying something like he invented, whatever, X, doesn't matter. Not the platform. I'm using that as the integer to stand in for something.
Figurative, yes.
Yeah, figurative X. And it was like, what was implied was he's an idiot and he's taking credit for something that he, didn't. And I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, he's not actually saying that. And she was like, well, no, okay, But it was just like, so you want to lie? Like, I don't understand. There's plenty of stuff you could hate the guy on if you really wanted to hate him. But it was like this kind of like this everyone's in on this. And we all hate him, and we all agree, and it's like any dissension, and it's like you'd be snuffed out like a witch at Salem. It was wild the way it was. But I will say, man, I think things are changing. I really feel in this country it's not the same way it was, 8 years ago or even 4 years ago. Like, I was at a social gathering on Sunday, hanging out with my buddy, and there's some people I didn't really know, and he's an Irish dude, and he's like, dealing with immigration, so we're just making like some jokes about it or whatever. And I said something about some sort of Trump joke, and the guy goes, "Oh, are you a Trump guy?" I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Yeah, me too." And it was just like that would have never happened. Neither one of us would have even asked or said it. It is Texas, but Austin is not Texas.
Yes, I'm aware of what goes on in Austin. Yeah,
it's its own world, and so it's very much like those bubbles you're talking about. But those bubbles are popping, and I think it's. It's not as despicable to be a Trump supporter as it used to be. We've got a lot more like kind of just support. It's like okay, like it's relatively cool, and it's just interesting to see how much that's changed. Like even like I said, like there were those pussy protests in LA in 2016. I went to the gym the next day after the election. Yeah. Some long faces, but they got a trans flag out in front of my gym. You know what I mean? Like a couple of trans girls like work there. Like it's like that. The vibe obviously is that we're fucking Trump's awful, but no one. It wasn't the same. People did not have the meltdown.
It was different too. It was compared to 8 years ago. It was different. You want to know how different it was compared to 2016 or 2024? So during the 2024 campaign, so I was on my way to a family party. And I saw a Trump's store in Chicago. I'm like, hold on, this is it. I had to do like the double take. Like,
yeah,
are my eyes seeing that correctly? And
my eyes deceive me.
Let's see if this stays more than a week. It was there a week later. I'm like, this would have never lasted a day.
It would have been destroyed. It would have been
looted,
like bricks thrown
destroyed,
through the window,
maybe burned up.
Yeah,
who knows what could have happened?
Yeah,
but. Yeah, and I know. I did look at it. He did have gains in Illinois, even in certain parts of Chicago.
Yeah,
dude, I was like,
California.
Whoa, yeah,
California had gains.
I know.
Glinzer's saying, he said he's in the Bay Area. The bubble is scarier than Pennywise showing up as Santa Claus for a preschool party. But even in that area, in Oakland, he had gains. Like in LA County, he had gains. There are people who are like. It's not, they just don't have that hegemony anymore, especially with the media dying. Like, that's something, too, that I noticed. No matter where you are in the political spectrum, I feel like everyone's like, the media sucks.
Yeah, if they're not there, they're definitely closer to getting there now than they were easily more than like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember because that was my definitive red pill moment for me was the Corona lockdowns and how people responded because no, that was my last year I ever had Facebook. And when I was challenging the narratives around that, that's when I had a lot of people from like Chicago and even my area where I grew up in the burbs getting very mad that I was like the only guy that was saying this stuff.
Yeah.
And now there is a lot more open conversation on it now. But yeah, at the time, I remember I was like, man, I was the needle in the haystack and everyone was didn't like that I was saying these things. Now I could say these things and it's easier, and that's great. But
Yeah.
it's wild to think, wow, that was just 4 years. It feels like that was 8 years ago, or even 12 years ago.
I know. Like
It's
even
wild.
I used to work at this bar, Midnight Cowboy, on 6th Street in Austin. And before that, every other place I ever worked, I always tried to keep it under my hat. I'm still me. I still make jokes. I still kind of have my perspective, but I generally just don't let anyone know that's how I think, because it's like it can be really, detrimental to you, especially like in the food service industry. You kind of assume everyone's super liberal, and you'd meet some people who were like, on the side, we're hanging out, we're like, Trump, right? Yeah, fuck yeah, Trump, dude. Okay, cool. But it's very rare, and you never say that shit at work. But even when I was at that bar, now granted, it was a smaller staff, I feel like, I'm not saying I was openly supporting Trump, but I was saying, Trump-like things, and no one gave a shit. Like, it was like, it doesn't have that same kind of critical, like, gonna crush you if you think this. It's honestly more accepted. Like, I used to feel like it was like being gay in the 50s. You know what I mean?
It really was. You really have to come out of the closet to tell people. Imagine what it's like being a gay man and saying, I'm now come out of the closet twice.
Yeah.
I had to come out of the closet about being gay, and now I have to come out of the closet about liking Donald Trump. So
Yeah.
gay men have lived impressively 2 lives in that regard. They had to come out of the closet twice. Like, wow.
That's crazy. Because you had to do it to like your parents and your friends and stuff that you were gay, and then you have to do it to like your LGBT community that you're a Trump supporter. They probably went over even worse.
Well, I'll bet somewhere some gay man's just like, you know what? I've been through this. I know how this works. I got this. I'll show. I've been through the ropes. I know how.
I've been through it before. Yeah, it's like support groups. You know what I mean? Run by gay men, explaining how to straight guys to come out as Trump supporters. And we're here for you. Always come back to the groups.
Oh man, it's seriously like I hope the best part about how crazy everything has been, and I think we're still gonna have some entertaining times ahead. You can make a movie of this wild timeline, and you could cover all the genres, all of them, action,
Seriously.
adventure, thriller, mystery, horror, family,
sci-fi,
you name it. Sci-fi even. You can do any genre on this timeline, and you could get a movie out of it.
I know.
I hope we get some of the wildest movies 34 years down the line, so I can tell my kids like, yeah, that was a wild time.
Dude, Trump got shot like that wasn't 6 months ago. You know what I mean? Like that kind of just happened. Like, it's like insane, like the time that we're living in and the things that happen and how quickly the news media like cycles and all the information we get. I mean, like since they shot that gorilla, things have gotten a little nuts.
Oh, I know. Dude, yeah, good old Harambe, man.
Harambe.
Who I still bring up to this very day.
Died for our sins, man.
Right? Oh, man. Somewhere out there, Harambe's now hanging out with Peanut and Friend.
With Peanut,
He's got friends now.
Looking down, smiling. Yeah, dude. So I wanna change the subject kind of radically, and it's just because it's something I'm curious about, and I don't quite understand it. So I see behind you, you have the Isom poster. You know what I mean, like the Rippaverse comic book. I have the comic as well. Solid. Mm-hmm. My question is, what the fuck happened in the Comicsgate community that like Rippa and Ethan Van Sciver like hate each other, and there's this big divide between the two camps? I still can't really figure it out. Like I did a little bit of digging, but it all happens on like social media, so it's not like there's a thread explaining it all. So do you know?
You're never gonna find a thread that's gonna not only A, cover all the bases, B, even cover it objectively, no matter what side of it you're on. I don't see. There's no version of it that's called a long story short.
Yeah.
There's just the long story long, and I'm trying to figure out how do I say this without turn this into 800 hours of this. I mean, obviously Rippa had initial success, and I think that success became repeat success, and then once it became repeat success, it started turning into very harsh criticism. You could maybe argue some of it was legit, and I'd argue some of it was not legit. And then some people were capitalizing on that and using that as a way of getting at once again. I am leaving out details there. So in case you're wondering, if someone else hears this, what side they're on. Oh, you're leaving this out. You're leaving that. Yes, I am, because I don't want to go over this too deeply, because I do whatever it takes to stay further away from it. Yeah, he repeated success, and certain guys seemed like they were not liking how he was doing business, and it wasn't just him either. There was others, and it seemed like they were just all starting to coordinate against him, because he wasn't running his business like they were. He wasn't propping up all Smash Channels the way that Ethan does. And that's great that Ethan does that. I have nothing to go against him for that. That's great that he was putting on small shows, but people didn't like that he was doing business differently. And then all of a sudden, people who all of a sudden said they like this comic were now against it. And then they're all saying, well, now and then all of a sudden they're making nitpicks to the nth degree. And as I said, some are valid, some I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But regardless of whether I agree with them or I don't, it got really obsessive. It was like Trump derangement syndrome, but for Eric July.
Every time I open Twitter and I see like EVS said some real nasty shit, and I don't know if any of it's founded. I can't imagine it is, but I don't know because I don't know the details. But it's just like he'll say something real nasty, and then underneath it'll be 100 people totally on his side too, and I'm like, what is this? I first noticed it. I think I opened Twitter one day, and Gary's not he talks shit about the media. He talks shit about Hollywood. I never really see him get in the mud with anyone, in general. And if it is, it's usually more magnanimous. Like the whole thing that happened with Doomcock. He's trying to manage it and just be like, hey, listen, things were said, no one's upset, blah, blah, blah. But he was talking to your boy Zach about oh, well, now he's got all this free time to deliver those comics you paid for, and it was a shot. And I was like, whoa, is your boy Zach on the out? What happened here? And that's when I was trying to just suss out all these details.
That's a whole other the your boy Zach stuff. That's a whole good luck, man. You're never gonna get all that. I'm not joking. As funny as it is, because it is. You're never gonna get all the answers there. That's a whole other situation.
Someone needs to make a video summing this shit up. I need details, because I watched the one about Rakeda, which I didn't even know about. I heard about the arrest. I thought he got swatted like Tim Pool. That was I was like, oh, they're setting him up. And then I watched this video. It was like a lore video. I was like, oh shit, this is insane.
It really bums me out what happened with Nick Rakeda, and he did get involved too with the stuff with Ethan Van Sciver, and
he did too.
Really, he got involved.
So much drama.
And it really was unfortunate to see it, because I remember what it was like during the Kyle Rittenhouse hearings. I watched Nick Rakeda shows all the time. He was the go-to for me for that, and I watched a fair amount of his stuff. It was between him and Tug when it came to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff, and I really liked the way he talked about a lot. And he also made it fun too, and I always like how he pointed out, hey, guess what? Just because I talk about a lot and practice it, it doesn't mean that I know everything either. It was someone just real and to me that was nice to hear, because take care, man. A lot of people who, let's just say, they went to a university. And it doesn't matter whether it's a doctor, or a police officer, or practicing law, or even just something else entirely. A lot of people who are in those, they get really arrogant, and they think because they're smart in one field that somehow that correlates to everything else.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very humanizing quality about Nick. But apparently, I stopped. The reason I stopped watching, honestly, had nothing to do with that stuff. It was just kind of I just was discovering other things, or was interested in different things. And then I started hearing about what was going on, and I was just like, "Oh man, I hope it's not that serious." I really like Nick, but then I saw the arrest happen. I was just like, "Whoa, what?" And I did see the video of what happened before he got arrested.
Yeah,
it took me whoa, what? This is a whirlwind. Yeah, I don't know all the details with Nick's situation. I've looked into some of it. But
there's a good video. I can shoot it over to you. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who made the video. It was like Cucumber Feet or something. I'd never seen him before. But he did an Opie and Anthony one. I'm a big Opie and Anthony fan. I think that's how it ended up in my algorithm. And I watched that, and I was like, wow, this is really compelling. And he did one about, what's his name? The guy who pulled his dick out on FNT. What the hell? You know what I'm talking about? The guy from Vice? I can't think
Oh,
of his name.
I couldn't tell
Gavin
you.
McGinnis.
Oh, Gavin McGinnis. Yeah.
So he did a Gavin McGinnis one, and then I saw the Nick Rekieta one, and I was just like, oh my God. And he walked through the whole thing. And not only just like the drugs and stuff like that, it was like how his content changed, what audience he was courting, doing like sex toy reviews. It was bananas. Like if I didn't see that, like I wouldn't believe it. You know, I was like, that can't be. Like that's the legal guy, right? Like that. It's a crazy story, man. And it's a little scary. And then it's like now he's like a lolcow. You know, it's like I see anything on like the Twitter that's like this just, you know, full of hateful comments. Not hateful, just mocking, and it's just like, oh my God, dude, that sucks to be that guy. That's bad, brother. I feel bad. Thank you. Yes, Grant, Gavin McGinnis, much appreciated, sir. Good to see you, buddy. Haven't seen you in a while. I want to have you on sometime, Grant. I haven't talked to you in so long.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well, brother.
Yeah, it's wild to see where all these guys like spiral. Like he had his moment, and then there was obviously your boy Zach had his moment. And that's a whole other well. There's just been a lot. Obviously, if you want to even get more, want to go further back, there's the Just Some Guy episode, which actually was a result of his argument with Nick Rekieta before Nick Rekieta had his moment when they were arguing on Flashcast many moons back. It's
wow.
You know, it really it's a great reminder. It's kind of like, I hate saying that, but it kind of reminds me of like high school, unfortunately, in that way. Just in that way, not in every other way, of who comes and goes, the circles, the revolving doors. Yeah. It really shows you who comes and goes, who's in it like for fun, who's in it because they want to cash in on a moment, who's a real friend, who's not. It's crazy. It's wild. And I still mean what I said much earlier in the stream when I said I still look at this very fondly. I do. And that shows you because I'm also really good at not engaging with the drama with people in our circle. Yeah, I'll engage with people who are, you know, very politically involved, who are not in our inner circle. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I do not engage with people in our sphere at all. Like,
I couldn't imagine.
I don't do anyone who's on YouTube with a channel presence. I don't engage with in a very. If I ever do have a debate, it'll be something just to have fun with. It won't be something from a place of holding a grudge. That's never gonna happen with me. Unless someone throws like $500,000 at me, maybe I'll take a consideration. But at this moment, I don't care about that stuff. You know, when I go on Twitch,
I could never. Someone would have to say something publicly about me for me to engage with it, especially someone that I know or I've interacted with, because it's like I just don't want to get involved in that. You know what I mean? But it's like it's kind of childish. But it's like it's just something that I wouldn't want to do. But if literally it was if my hand was forced and I had to respond, then okay. But other than that, yeah, no, dude, I would never. Especially people who've like showed me grace in the past, people who've been nice to me, who've like bigged me up. I could never imagine, even if I didn't like them anymore, I still would keep that private.
Yeah.
I just, you know, it just seems so classless. But hello, Zax. Good to see you, my friend.
Zax.
Man of War says all this is the main reason I don't use Twatter. I'm not a 13-year-old girl. I mean, I don't know if that's an accurate assessment. It is the town square, my friend, but I understand. I think it's best. I think it's overall probably best to not be on social media. I think it probably makes you a more happy person. I guess I'm just addicted.
You're a crackhead. No, it's yeah. So, once again, all things in moderation. I have my time where I'm on Twix. And there's time I focus on things at home. There's times I spend my time reading. Sometimes I watch a Bond movie. Sometimes I go out into the world and absorb the world around me. Sometimes I just want a damn pizza.
Word.
Like it's a good thing. Like as hectic as it is living my life because there's a million things going on. That's also why that it's good because there's always something. Yeah. So I don't need to have one thing consume my life for too long. So my life is like a default ADD in that regard. It's default.
Do you make pizza at home?
Oh god. I don't. Maybe I'll try it again someday, but the reason why I don't is because it ties back to my very first job where I made pizzas and I sucked. I sucked so bad I got fired from my job because of how bad I sucked it, man. I'm not joking. There was a corporation. They're still around to this day. I know, right? Ironic. The guy who talks about pizza the most is the guy who sucks at making pizzas. Yeah, I know. It's not lost on me.
That's funny. It's
I
pretty
was 17 and I worked at a company called Nancy's Pizza. It was my first job. And at Nancy's, they're a small chain. I don't know if they're like nationwide, but I know they're at least in the Midwest. They got a handful of locations. And they had actually good pizza. They did. And I know they're still going to this day, but they always scheduled me at the worst hours. And why this was important was not just because, you know, how it conflicts with real life, but because I could never really get good at making pizzas on downtime, because as soon as it would slow down on a Friday or Saturday night, they would have me go home. They would have me go home. So I can never really have a moment to breathe. So all I kept doing was making errors and being awful. And I lasted about 3 or 4 months there. And then that was it for my time at Nancy's Pizza.
That's hilarious, dude. But I mean, you know, I've had jobs too where it's like I'm good at this particular job, but you train me terribly. So it's like it's hard for me to like fit in. Like it's gonna take me a while to adjust. And if I never have the adjustment period, if it's always slammed, it's like, well, how am I supposed to get good at this?
Yeah. How are you? And they would never schedule me on the weekdays. They would only schedule me on the weekends. And this was at a time where I don't know what the minimum wage is in Texas, but in 2005 or 6, the minimum wage was $6.50 an hour, I think, which is crazy to think about now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like around $6.50. I think I was actually making below it. I think I was making like $6. I think. But so the pay was awful.
Yeah.
The training was awful. The pizza in itself was good. My skills sucked. The manager sucked. Like besides the pizza being good, everything else about it was bad news. And then I was gone.
Nick, I think it's time you got to put that trauma behind you, man. I think you got to get back up on that horse, buddy, and make some pizza at your house.
We'll see.
It'd be good video content, I think, you know.
I know I would like to get to a point where down the line, I'd like to, you know, at least have like a Dave Portnoy going around trying pizzas in our places. I have talked to my buddy Wes from Thinking Critical that we want to try some places in Texas. And and I actually found out some great spots in Texas that have pizza. So
dude, if you ever make it down to Austin, I'll take you some good pizza, brother. Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's a spot in town called Buffalina, and it's all that brick fire oven, you know, with the ceramic on the outside. Brother, I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, right? I used to live in New York City. You know, I'm kind of a food snob.
Yeah.
This is seriously some of the best pizza I've ever had.
Nice.
It's unreal, brother.
I believe that it's real. That's the thing. I'm a believer. I know that it's real, and it's probably really damn good. No,
it's fucking fire.
It's definitely something I'd like to get to doing down the line. That's for sure. I would like to get there, but right now I'm just not at a point where doing that type of stuff is allowable. But hey, you know, things could change. I mean, God, if you had told me I'd have a channel on YouTube where it got monetized and had 2K subs and had memberships when I started this channel 4 years ago, I would have never believed any of that. I would have called it stupid, maybe even retarded. I call myself retarded. I'd still call myself retarded, but here we are, and all these things happen. So
fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. I mean, I didn't see it going this way. Grant, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
There, Grant.
Thanks for popping in. Hope to have you on soon, my friend. I guess I started like a podcast in like 2012. And I only did like a few episodes because it was called the MFer Podcast. And I did a few, but I found I was still pursuing acting at the time. And I found myself way more invested in the podcast. So I felt like, oh, this is a distraction from like what I, you know, am really here to be pursuing. I think that was stupid logic, I think if I stuck with it, you know what I mean? Who knows what it could be? But it's just something that I kind of put in the back burner, would always kind of sort of sometimes think about going back to it. But I never saw myself doing this. But now that like I do it, like, you know, even at the whatever this shape of it is now, it's still something that I love to do. You know, it's something I love to show up. I love podcasts. I love live streams. Like I'm a fan. You know, I'm a fan of that kind of content. So being able to do it is fun, and I had a lot of great times, man. You know, like all those shows I used to do with Vidge and like the craziness of the cocktail lounge and just so much stuff, going on your channel talking about Con Air, dude. That was sick.
That was amazing. Yeah,
I love that
it was really
movie.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, we talked about Con Air twice. We're at the final way to just have a cheap excuse to talk about it a third time.
Dude, I'm about it, bro. Hell yeah, man. Dude, some of those movies, like, they just age so well, and in my mind, I'm always like Con Air is always kind of right there next to The Rock. Those two movies are, and they're just, I love them, and it's like, I feel like, every time I check it out, I'm always like a little worried that maybe I'll see something that I don't like, or maybe I saw it through rose-colored glasses, but every time I watch them, I'm just like, I'm more convinced at how awesome these movies are. They're the best movies, dude. Like 90s action movies, dude. Peak culture, bro.
Oh, straight up. And who knows, man? We'll see. I would like to be a time where even if we had a sliver of that again,
I know.
I would love for it to happen. I think we got some of the right names to do that if they were given the right script. I mean, I feel like if Chris Pratt was given the right script, he could do. I think he showed off that he could do that type of thing with the Terminal List. Yeah. He just needs the right material to not be as Chris Pratt. He just needs to be more of a stoic badass. So he's shown good. He can do it. Yeah. So now it lets you know it's like, yeah, sure, he's himself, but given the right script, he can adjust if need be. So if we get a few more guys like that and get some Rambos out of them, get some Con Airs out of them, get some Total Recalls out of them. I mean, man, maybe it's the optimism kicking in, but I would love to see this age where we have movies that, you could say that the story is not there, but the entertainment factor is skyrocketing 20. Dude, I would kill.
I need it. The thing, like, action movies are dead. Like, the only action movies you get are the ones that, like, they're either real bad and campy and, like, lame. They're, like some of, like, the lesser, like, superhero movies or Borderlands, they're bad. Or you get the ones that take themselves, like, deadly serious to the point where it's like, it's cool, but it's not that much fun. Like that movie Extraction with, what's his name? The guy who played, Chris Hemsworth. And it's cool, but it's so serious that it's like, it's not as much fun. Like, it's kind of the fun of those movies was that they were so over the top. They were so ridiculous. The premise is so absurd, but the characters take it deadly seriously, so it's so much fun. Like Armageddon, ridiculous. It's easier to train astronauts to easier to train drillers to be astronauts than astronauts to drill? Really? Mm-hmm. Like the most elite people in the world can't figure out drilling? I'm pretty sure they could figure it out. But who cares? This is fun. It's a great premise.
Look at all the Chuck Norris movies of the 80s. Some of them you can even make the argument that some of them had no story. But Chuck Norris is oozing with charisma. Yeah. Oozing. Like, you could see it pouring down his skin.
Dude.
And you would just be hooked on his one-liners. Yeah, him, Van Damme,
they're so
Russell, great. Those guys. Like,
Total Recall is still one of my favorite movies of all time, bro.
See you at the party, Richter.
See you at the party, Richter. Stick around. It's so great, dude. I miss those movies. Maybe they just, sometimes those things just had a time in history, and then that's when they lived, and they can't come back. And it's always kind of pathetic when they sort of try to do it, and it doesn't have that same tone.
That's why it cannot be the same personalities. That's another thing. I feel like that's why it has to be someone like a Chris Pratt, because how many times does someone try to come back from something 30, 40 years later outside of Tom Cruise at Top Gun Maverick? Because obviously for everything, there's always an exception to the rule. Yeah. He's the exception. Yeah. Most things, when someone comes back to something that they've been away from several decades, and ends up becoming a why was this made?
Yes.
And
almost always.
Yeah, almost always. Like I said, outside of Maverick.
2. Brutal.
We didn't need that. We don't need a Gladiator 2.
No,
we don't
Gladiator 2.
And I didn't watch it, but I already know we don't need it.
I watched like Drinker's review, and then I watched this guy that another new YouTuber, I didn't know him, and he did a review, and I was like, that sounds horrific. Like I can't imagine going to see that.
Yeah,
based on that description.
That's why we need new stars to do this, and not old guys not old guys, but just guys who have already been doing this, and for them to come back to these things. Like, it just isn't going to happen. It's not one of those things where you can let's just say, we'll just do a hypothetical. You can't bring back Arnold to do another Total Recall.
No.
I'm not saying because of his comment from a few years ago. I'm saying that even if he never said that, his time had passed, who he was then versus who he is now. It's just way too different for him. It's just not the same vibe that once was, and that's okay.
That's fine.
He served his moment under the sun for it.
Yeah,
we
still have Commando
names.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, that's why we have Commando to let off some steam.
Hell yeah. Well, on that note, I know you got to get going, Nick.
I do.
What do you want to plug, my friend?
Oh, sure. I posted a video earlier today.
Nice.
Do check that out. Toxic Tuesday tomorrow night. The Living Daylights, Timothy Dalton, James Bond movie.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Hell yeah.
We've been on Bond month. It's been our tradition every November now. Bond
Radical.
Month. Yeah. So
you got some Christmas movies coming up for the holiday season?
Can't say yet, but I'll tell you quickly behind the scenes.
Okay.
I'll tell you what they are quickly.
Hell
but
yeah.
Yes, we have a few this year. It's gonna be great.
Dude.
And member stream Wednesday night. Klobby's Comic Shop Friday, and I also have another video out later this week as well. Probably reviewing The Horseman. So,
oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if there's a chance you're not subscribed to Nick, go do that. Nick's the man. Toxic Tuesday is one of the most fun streams that are going on. Bunch of dudes just hanging out, appreciating awesome movies. I remember when you started that, I was like, it's brilliant. I love it, and I'm glad that you're sticking with it, dude. It's phenomenal. And congrats, man. Congrats on 2K, and I just hope there's just more in the future for you, my friend.
Good to hang out with you, Matt.
You too, dude. It's been great. It's been an honor for me as well, Nick. If you guys have not checked out my sketch, please go check it out. It's parodying the UK social media arrests. I think it's pretty funny. Subscribe, check out all my stuff. Obviously, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram. I'm everywhere. So check it all out. And thank you guys very much for joining us and hanging out. It's great to see y'all. And have a great night. See you next Monday. Peace out.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy!